Hello and welcome to Reality TV Cringe. I am Delia, one of your hosts here in the dumpster, and I'm with my real tight homegirl and my daughter-in-law, the beautiful, the truly lovely Beatrice.
Hi.
We are here to talk about Sister Wives Honey. We are currently on season 6.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about episode, is it 9 or 8 tonight?
9.
9 tonight already?
Yeah.
Episode 9, in which we have a debate with the anti-polygamists.
Oh my God, so unsafe.
Versus the Browns. And I thought there were some juicy little tidbits here that we're going to get into. But before we do, please let us give you this disclaimer, which is to hide your wife and hide your kids. This is a politically incorrect podcast. We say stupid things. We have dumb opinions. We're just here to have a good time.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive,
go away, you little baby.
You might want to find yourself another dumpster.
Bye.
But if you're ready to go up against poor Aunt Kristen, welcome to this dumpster.
And if you like what we do over here, please be sure to follow us on Instagram at Reality TV Cringe and join us on Patreon, patreon.com/Reality TV Cringe. That's the party dumpster over there, okay?
It is. I think we're going to be wrapping up my 1,000-pound best friends.
Yeah.
And also we're going to be wrapping up couples therapy, which we've just been having a great time with. And then we're going to launch into the Valley.
Yeah.
And maybe some other content. We're kind of presently just workshopping what we're going to do.
Debating.
But it's going to be lit.
Yeah.
Now, if you are watching on YouTube, please, if you would be so kind, do not forget to like and comment and share and subscribe, because every little thing you do helps us to get to 6,000 subscribers. It's my dream.
I know, me too.
Dare to dream, Beatrice.
We should update that on our vision board, actually.
Oh, we should.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. We had 5,000. Now it needs to be 6,000.
Yeah.
So anything you can do is so helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
In advance.
Appreciate it.
Now, before we get into our episode recap, we do probably have to address the big news in the Sister Wives multiverse, which of course dropped right after we filmed last week. So we were not able to get to it, but it's the apparent redistribution of ownership across the 4 parcels of Coyote Pass.
Yeah, this was huge. I totally forgot about it until just now.
I don't know that I understood kind of the method behind what they were doing. I saw that like they changed the ownership, the names across parcels, but like does it end up equaling like 25% each or not?
I don't know how it equals out in terms of percentages, because Cody and Robin's names are still on 3 of the parcels. So it's still 4 parcels like it was, but before it was Cody and Robin's plot, Cody and Janelle and Mary's plot, and then another Cody and Robin's plot, which used to be Christine's, and then Cody and Janelle's plot. And now Janelle and Mary are on one plot.
Okay.
So Cody and Robin's names are off of it.
Okay.
And then Cody and Robin are still on Christine's plot.
Which was a smaller plot, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we have Cody, Robin, Janelle, and Mary on the last 2 plots. The one that was in the middle, and then the other with the pond.
Okay.
So I guess it's more equal now because Janelle and Mary's names are on the other 2 plots.
Mm-hmm.
But Cody and Robin's names are still on all of it. So like I don't really understand.
Okay, so the news is that they struck some kind of deal, but the unanswered question for me is whether Cody and Robin are going to be made to pay back the portion that both Janelle and Mary paid into like the down payment of the first McMansion.
Right.
Because as we have established before, like when they sold their homes in Vegas, they took the proceeds of those sales and they put that towards Robin's home, which she has said on camera, that home was a family asset. It's for the entire family. And so I'm just wondering if maybe they got a little less than 25%. I'm not sure, again, because I don't know how to do the breakdown. But if they did, maybe it doesn't matter that much if they're also paying them back for the down payment.
Maybe, but I don't know. This whole thing still feels really messy to me. And I just don't understand why Janelle and Mary can't have their own plots. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why can't Cody and Robin just have one? And then, like, why do their names still have to be on 3 out of the 4 parcels? Like, none of this makes sense, but maybe it's working out for Janelle and Mary. Maybe it's still in progress. Maybe they're still debating all of this stuff. I have no idea, but it is interesting nonetheless.
I imagine they're not still debating it if they went to the trouble of like actually reassigning ownership. It sounds like there was a deal that was struck. I just wish that we had the particulars. I'm wondering if the final 5 episodes or whatever we're about to get starting on April 20th, I wonder if some of this is going to be addressed. Like, was this all negotiated on camera? And they sealed the deal off camera? I don't know. Probably not. Like, that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
So that means that's what I'm not going to see.
Yeah.
Because it's the Sister Wives, baby.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be on this season. I've been seeing a couple people saying that, like, online and stuff, and hoping that we're going to see the footage, but I don't know. I feel like we're going to end up seeing it like next year or the year after.
Or the year after
if they continue the show that long.
Right. And that's what's in question.
Right. I don't know if we're going to get there. Like, what kind of content are we going to watch for 2 more seasons?
Child support lawsuit. I'll watch that all
would
day,
be great.
every day, twice on Sundays. I'm there for the lawsuits.
That would be great, but that's not what they're going to show us.
Right.
It's going to be more baptisms. It's going to be like moving into the other McMansion. It's going to be Christine and David making out. Like, I don't want to see that.
Stop
I don't want to see it.
Absolutely. I bind that in the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
No, I rebuke it. But very interesting news. And
Yeah.
so things are moving around. Things are happening. We don't have the full picture, obviously.
Yeah.
But it is interesting.
Very interesting.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to talk about before we get into the recap?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Start us off, Beatrice.
All right. Well, this episode was called Sister Wives on the Ropes.
Yeah.
So is that about the debate?
I think so. Like when you're on the ropes in a boxing ring,
Oh my
then
God.
like you're taking blows and you're trying to defend yourself to get off the ropes, which your wife would know because she's like into
Yeah, she's into boxing
and all that stuff. Yeah.
martial arts and stuff, I guess. But like this episode to me, I'm like, the Browns are being so dramatic.
And negative.
Oh my God, so negative.
And condescending.
Yes.
And rude.
Yep.
So to set up the premise, apparently we need to create content again.
Of course.
And so the Browns and the production team has been in contact with UNLV, and they have created this debate in which the Browns are going to represent their version of polygamy, which of course is so awesome.
It's perfect.
There's no problems whatsoever.
At all.
And they're going to be debating against people who have been in polygamy, had a bad time, honey.
Yeah.
And now they want to at least shed some light on the problems of polygamy.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole thing. I wish we would have spent more time on the actual debate.
I know.
Instead, we like spent a lot of time with Christine
Oh my God.
being histrionic
Look.
and so annoying.
This, like, the majority of this episode was just them talking about how afraid they were for this debate, how nervous they were to go to battle for their polygamy and for their faith. And Christine taking all of this so personally, like talking about how her aunt is only there to trash their family and how she hates their family, and talk about how much she hates the Browns and Cody and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's literally not what your aunt is saying at all. She's talking about how polygamy is not good because she lived it and was born and raised in it and had all of this life experience in it and wants to shed some light on why it's bad. But then Christine's taking it personally. The rest of the family's taking it personally.
Except Mary.
I
Curiously.
guess she's kind of like whatever
Mary's
about
like,
it.
well, they can live the way they want to live. We're going to live the way we want to live. She seems neutral.
Yeah, and kind of Janelle too. Janelle's just like, yeah, like we're just here to tell our experience, and they've had their own experience. Like, doesn't change our family dynamic. But Christine, my God, she was using the word unsafe a lot too.
I know.
I'm
like
like,
the
ew.
origin story of Unsafe.
Yes.
Season 6. Like, I want to get into this, and I'm trying to like work it out in my big dumb brain because like if I'm a Christian, say, and there's a sect of Christianity, and there is like
course.
a fundamentalist, radicalized sect of Christianity that is out here perpetrating crimes and doing terrible things, and I'm on a show, say, talking about my version of Christianity that is linked, like squarely linked to what these people are doing. I'm going to take that as a responsibility to use whatever platform I have to call that out.
Right.
So, and I think they've done a little bit of that. Like they've addressed Warren Jeffs like last season. They talked about how child brides are bad, but this is a great opportunity for them to set themselves apart, to show a little grace and compassion for people who were objectively abused in the cult of polygamy. But like, that's not the spirit and the energy that they take into the interaction. It's like butthurt feelings from Christine. Robin comes in there with her full hard jaw, honey.
Oh my God.
Very defensive and angry and ready to fight. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, acknowledge and validate, because y'all know. These people know firsthand that this is the reality of so many people living in polygamy, women and children.
Of course.
They know that firsthand.
Yep.
Like, so validate their experience and then just offer a countermeasure to that, a counter argument. But that's not what they do. And it's really confusing to me, Beatrice.
It's super weird. They come off super defensive the entire time. Like they already have their walls up in this debate. And it's interesting because I think Christine's aunt says at some point before the debate, she's like, we're not there to trash on the Browns. We understand that they're an anomaly and that they're unique and their experience is unique. We just want them to acknowledge that and acknowledge that they are kind of an exception to the rule and just hear that polygamy, by and large, is dysfunctional and not good in most cases. But the Browns can't hear that. They're just on this quest to be like, no, but we're not like them, though. They not like us. We're good. Like, and so therefore a lot of other polygamous families are good. And I mean, maybe there are,
sure,
but we don't see that represented in the media. We don't see that very often at all because they're all hidden. Even on shows like My Five Wives with Brady or whatever, they're hella dysfunctional too. And you can see it behind the scenes. They don't want to acknowledge it, but they are. Even the Darkers are probably dysfunctional too.
Very much so.
But they come off like they're fine and that everything's hunky-dory. So I don't know. This whole thing was really interesting to watch because with our current perspective, we see that their family completely is destroyed because of polygamy and because Cody couldn't manage his relationships with all these other wives. So it's just interesting to see them be so defensive about it and defending their position and why polygamy is good, and Cody being like, yeah, this is a good lifestyle because I get to marry all the women that I love. And then now we have 2025. He doesn't talk to any of his kids. He's divorced from all three of his wives.
He's saying like very directly, I never loved them.
Exactly.
And we also know from the perspective of the last few years that they were not having sex. A lot of these women were not having sex with him. And there was definitely favoritism. We're melting down rings and everything. So it's highly dysfunctional. And yet we're still trying to put forth this like very, an illusion, a lie. And it's really, really sad. It kind of just proves the point of the people that are showing up to debate them. And let's talk about those people because we have Christine's aunt named Kristen Decker, who I think 100% entered into this debate in good faith.
Oh, for sure.
She seemed excited to see Christine. She's not here to shame Christine or Christine's family. She's just acknowledging that Christine and her family have established a platform and she wants to just be able to share that platform to show the other side of it, right? But she's going into it with a good attitude. Then we have Colleen, who's the blonde girl.
The angsty.
Very angsty, dark eyeliner. She was, I think, was it last season? Was it season 5?
Yeah, where she visited, or they visited her.
Right, Maddie and Logan and Aspen visited a bunch of kids who had escaped polygamy.
Yep.
And Colleen was one of them. And so she's there to debate. And then we have a new boy. His name is Willie Steed. I looked him up.
Good.
Because I'm like hoping he's okay because just the way that he presented in the episode, I'm like, this young man has been deeply traumatized and hurt, and I'm wondering where he is. But unfortunately, from what I could find, like his last post across social media was 2014. He was out in San Diego, like trying to model and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I feel really nervous for him. And I was so interested to hear his story, which we really didn't spend a lot of time on.
No, we didn't.
And that was really frustrating. And then there was that rando woman
with the ponytail,
Cheryl Marie or something like that. She's a photographer.
Yeah.
Who sort of loosely got involved in this polygamous racket, and I didn't understand her story at all.
Well, she was a regular schmegular Mormon who I guess got bamboozled by a guy who believed in polygamy, and then she like I guess, lived it for like 9 months and then got out of it. And so therefore she's on the same level as the kid from the Warren Jeffs cult.
Right.
Or the incestuous
Well,
Kingston cult.
she's like, the guy said he was a prophet and I just believed him. And then we were married and then he's like, yeah, I'm going to bring in another wife.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm a
Whatever.
slave to this guy and this new wife. But then he wasn't ever married to this woman. I don't know what was happening with this one woman. It was very, very confusing.
Yeah.
I was very interested in the stories from the kids and Kristen Decker. And you really didn't get too much of that, unfortunately. Instead, we have the lead up to the debate with Christine, like, working herself into a lather, super nervous. She's just expecting to be attacked. Nobody's here attacking you. And that's the thing about all of the Browns. Like, you guys are on TLC.
Right.
You guys are probably making hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, if not more, in order to fund your lifestyle. So stop trying to paint yourself as like a marginalized, victimized group of people. Like, there's actual polygamists, though, that are marginalized. There's actually children and women that are exploited, and they made it all about them.
Oh, 100%.
To me, it was really gross.
It was really annoying because I'm like, you started this show knowing full well that coming out public was going to have these kinds of things happen. Like, you were going to have debates. You were going to have people who were going to shit all over your religion. You were going to have people that were going to come out of the woodwork, like even in your family, and speak out about you coming out, because polygamy is supposed to be, well, not supposed to be, but it's a secretive type of a thing because it's against the law in most places. So it's like, I don't know. You knew what you were getting into when you did this, and so now you're like all freaked out about a debate because your aunt's there. And like, Christine is like so against her aunt. She's like, I don't even want anything to do with her because she shits all over my family and she just hates me and my lifestyle. And I'm like, I'm not really getting that
at all
from your aunt. I mean, there was one thing her aunt did say to the camera about how she wishes she could rescue Christine and like kidnap her and take her away from the Browns and stuff. And so maybe that's like her underlying motive, but I think it's born out of like concern and care for Christine and this lifestyle, because maybe she sees how Christine is the basement wife in this family. Maybe she sees the dynamic on the show and realizes, oh, Christine's not happy. And like, I hope Christine maybe reconnected with her after she left Cody.
And that's the conversation around production due diligence that we continue to have. Like, I feel that Puddle Monkey, the production house, needs to come back around at this late stage and talk to Christine, like, get her perspective in 2025, 2026. Like, well, how do you feel about your aunt now?
Right.
Call up Kristen Decker and ask her. And what about Christine's mom, Annie? Because I think Annie also left polygamy. She was once in it, left polygamy, and yet we don't take these opportunities to talk to Annie about how she feels, or to Christine now that she's monogamous and married to David Woolley. Like, let's get back into these conversations. How do you feel now, 10 years later, after doing this dumb debate and making your aunt feel terrible about just telling her truth? Like, how do you feel about that now? But are we going to have those conversations?
No.
Is anybody even thinking creatively like this? Absolutely not.
And that's what's so frustrating. We say this all the time, but it's like, looking back on this episode is so interesting to see like how they went from this to what they are now in 2025, where they're completely broken up and like nobody even believes in polygamy anymore. Nobody even believes in their fundamentalist religion anymore. Like, why don't we talk about any of this? This would be so much more like of a compelling show to watch if we actually talked about that, but we're just gonna like glaze over it. We got a little titty tattoo and like that's just what it is.
And infer what you will based on that.
And like, even the tell-alls would be so much more interesting if we could watch flashbacks of this instead of the same fights like over and over again, of the knife and the kidneys and Janelle cussing Cody out as he leaves her dorm apartment. Like, this would be so much more interesting to look back on, in my opinion, but whatever.
Absolutely. I think that was the draw initially with this entire show. Like, people were interested in polygamy. People were interested in this alternate lifestyle and this different religion. I'm sure even LDS, regular conventional Mormons, were interested to see this. And so that was the premise going in. And somewhere along the way, we just disconnected from the religious aspect for the most part. And now it's just out there. And now we hear about Mary getting her release. We hear Janelle talk about maybe she wants to get a release. But like, why aren't we really drilling down into these issues and hashing them out? Because that's what I want. I don't know about anybody else, but like, I really want that component of it.
Oh,
and it's just It's just gone. And hearing some of the things that these folks are saying, like at some point during the panel, during the debate, somebody in the audience asks them about, well, somebody says something like, well, the way Cody speaks to you, like he raises his voice, the way you guys demur to him and look at him. Are you guys like, do you guys have your own money? Do you have your own independence? And Janelle says something like, oh, I don't share my money with Cody. And I also have my own career and I keep the funds from that. And I'm just like, really?
That's a lie.
Okay, Janelle, because like, what are we in 2013, 2014 at this point? And so in just, I don't know, 6 years from then, all of a sudden you're so disempowered that you're living in an RV that you had to buy. That's not level, by the way, where you have to haul your own water and Cody's grouching the entire time when he has to help you. And like, how did so many things change? Or were they never really that in the first place?
Oh, yeah. I don't think it ever was that in the first place. And it's just interesting that she says this back then on this panel, but then in 2025, she talks about the dangers of polygamy where like she has no assets. She has no money really to her name because Cody and her money is like all tied. And then she's all tied up with Robin and Mary and all these things. And how this is why polygamy is not good because women are disempowered and don't have their own financial autonomy. And so it's just interesting that she's saying this to this panelist or to this person in the audience being like, well, I have my own bank account, honey. Like, I'm fine. No, you don't.
And it's like the privilege of it though.
Right.
Because how many of these polygamist women have the same type of independence or have their own accounts and like when, for example, Colleen was bringing up her experience and she said something like, you know, the sister wives absolutely hate each other.
Yeah.
Like she was sharing what it was like in her actual home with her various mothers. And they were talking, you know, very sadly about how when two mothers were not getting along, they wouldn't take it out on each other, but rather they would take it out on the other one's children and how terrible that was to live through. And so Colleen's sharing this, and here's Robin.
Oh my God, with her jaw.
With her jaw, getting so freaking angry and calling out this literal child. I actually don't know how old Colleen is here, but I'm thinking she's like 17, 18, 19, 20. She's a young girl. And obviously her mentals have been stunted because of the trauma that she's had to endure.
Yep.
And like, here's Robin saying, well, but you said that all sister wives hated each other. And that's not what's happening here. And Colleen's like, no. I wasn't talking about you specifically and your family structure. I'm talking about my experience and what I saw. And she's like, well, but you said sister wives, you meant us. And I'm like, Robin, you abusive piece of crap. This girl has been traumatized in a community and in a structure that you can't tell me you don't know is valid. Like that was absolutely going on. And you're berating her and talking down to her and patronizing her. Oh my God. I just tap me in. Tap me in.
For real. When I thought that was interesting that that's the comment that got Robin all activated because I'm like, it's true. Because you hate your sister wives.
You don't like your sister wives.
Exactly why.
Absolutely.
And so she felt the need to defend it, especially on a public panel and like on TV, to be like, no, that's not true. I do not hate my sister wives. I'm best friends with all of them. Like it was just really interesting that that's the comment that she chose to get all activated over.
Well, and also with Kristen, because Kristen was like coming back around after Robin said something like, well, if I wasn't happy here, like if this situation wasn't working for me in this family, I would absolutely leave. I feel empowered to leave. And so Kristen was coming back around and saying, okay, but you said that you would feel empowered to leave. Like she couldn't even finish her thought before Robin was like, I did not say that. Do not twist my words.
Yep. And she calls her sweetie.
And don't make me into a victim, sweetie. And I'm like,
I know. I'm like, that's not what they
is the person turning you into a victim in the room with us right now? Because
I know.
Kristen was not saying that whatsoever. And furthermore, what she said you said is what you actually said.
It's what you literally said.
And then when you rephrased it after she said that, you said the same thing again.
Yeah.
It was literally the same thing she was saying, but you just want to fight though.
I know. Like Robin literally answered I think she answered Ponytail's question about like, well, what if you woke up one day and thought that this was all just a bunch of hocus pocus,
superstition,
BS or whatever, like would you leave? And Robin was like, yeah, totally. And
Uh-huh.
so I'm like,
Sure.
that's also interesting too that she answered that, because we're kind of debating now in 2025, like if Robin's still a part of the AUB, like does she still believe in polygamy? Does she actually believe in polygamy? Would she leave Cody if the finances got all muddled up and like
Mm-hmm.
ran out? Like it'd be interesting if she left out of like a belief, or if she thought like, oh, it's not worth it anymore. I don't know. I thought it was interesting that she even answered that and said, yeah, I would leave
Mm-hmm.
if it turned out to be my beliefs were BS.
Right. I don't believe her. I
I
mean,
don't know.
I do think she would leave, but I just think everything that's happening on the stage on their side is performative,
Yeah.
except for maybe Mary. I think Mary is like, I'm just here like to talk about my lifestyle. Like you can accept it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's no sweat off my back. And if you don't accept it, that's fine too. I'm not going to judge you for being anti-polygamous. So please don't judge me. And that from a meta perspective,
Yeah,
I can totally get behind.
of course.
And polyamory, same thing. Like if y'all are
Sure.
making the choice
Yeah.
that you guys want to live this way, like I have no problem like with you legalizing that if there was a function to do that so y'all could like file taxes together and people could have health insurance. Personally,
Yeah.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. Like, and I am all about like you live your lifestyle, what you do behind closed doors, I couldn't give a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
And don't worry about me over here either.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, here in Texas, we're a lot like that.
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked, actually, sidebar. When we moved to Texas from Colorado, I was very worried having a queer kid
Mm-hmm.
that people here were going to be very judgmental, bigoted, homophobic. And I remember our realtor saying, you're going to be surprised. And we were living out in Parker County, honey. We weren't in Dallas. We weren't in Houston. We were in the boonies. He's like, you're going to be very surprised when you go to the Target, you go to the Walmart. People here are very accepting. They're not even going to look twice at her weird hair or her tattoos. It's going to be absolutely fine. I don't know how I got on this, but I'm just saying that here, I just want to say that here in Texas, people are actually really, really welcoming. And it's about like not getting in somebody's business.
Oh, for sure.
In fact, there's this practice that we have here of like painting purple paint on our posts so that you know you're not allowed to come on my property. Now, if you do, there's going to be a problem. It is Texas. Beware. But like it's a very like this is where we live and this is where you live and I'm going to respect you and I'm not going to bug you. And so don't come over here and bug me. That's very much what it's like here. And I respect that. So as a person, I don't have a problem if you're a polyamorous person.
Yeah.
Or a polygamous, bigamous person.
Right.
And I also think you should get all the tax benefits of living your consensual lifestyle in the way that you want. But the minute you start exploiting children, and the minute we start having child brides, and the minute we start having disenfranchised women who have no power to get out of the cult, well, now we have a problem and we've got to address it. Let's not pretend it's not happening.
Of course. And that's the thing. And like they're also in Vegas, which is also a pretty progressive area of the country. And like people don't give a crap what you do in Vegas. They don't care if you're an Elvis impersonator. They don't care who you are there. Like nobody cares. So it's weird that the Browns are so defensive with this audience and with these people that have escaped awful, traumatic, heinous forms of polygamy, and they're just trying to share their story. And like this would have been a really interesting debate to have if the Browns weren't so defensive. And even at the end of the debate, like they are kind of blaming it off on the audience and the moderator and the other people on the panel as the reason why it got defensive. And I'm like, it's y'all. Like you came in hot-headed and like triggered because people were just sharing their opinions on
wanting
polygamy.
to have a dialogue and a conversation.
Like if you're going to live an alternative lifestyle, you need to be prepared for and willing to listen to the heat of other people judging that alternative lifestyle. That's just the reality that we're in.
I don't know about that.
You don't need to accept it, but you just need to be prepared that you live in a world where people are going to judge you.
If you're
for
on
it.
television. Now, if you're living an alternative lifestyle and you're keeping to yourself, like I'm not expecting to go to Walmart and having somebody come up and talk to me about my alternative lifestyle.
No.
I mean, people shouldn't have to defend the way that they want to live. But if you are going to be on a public platform, on a television show in front of millions of people, you should be prepared and you should expect people to challenge your alternative lifestyle.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you need to be prepared to like defend it in public, but like you need to know that you live in a world of
Yeah.
4.6 billion people, and there's going to be people that are not going to accept your lifestyle.
Sure.
That's just the reality of what we're living in. You're not going to have people validate your experience all the time. And like, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to be around those kinds of people. You don't have to even entertain their opinions. But I'm just saying, like, the Browns, especially being on TV, I'm just like, oh my God, like, chill out. Like, people are going to hate on polygamy. That's just the world.
I don't even think people are actually, at this time when they're filming season 6, I don't think people are really hating on polygamy. I feel like it's so part of their identity and part of the show's premise. Once again, the premise of polygamy and what it means to be a polygamist. And like, it's such a part of their brand to be victimized,
right,
that they have to always present themselves as such. I just saw a bunch of people in the audience who were curious.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh my God, this is a university.
Yep.
We're here to learn. We've got some polygamists here and some anti-polygamists. Let's go check out this lecture and see what happens.
Yeah.
But the way they go into it is just like, we're used to being attacked. We know they're going to be coming for us. I'm like, literally nobody's coming for you. Even the anti-polygamists have nothing against you. They just want to share your platform to show the other side of this.
Yep. It's crazy. And like, even before the debate, you have that weird little scene where like, Christine talks about how they didn't want to be in the same room as the other panelists because it was unsafe. And so they're in separate little conference rooms. And then Christine goes to the bathroom and her aunt is outside of the bathroom. And Christine doesn't want to leave the bathroom without her other sister wives there to walk her out like it's some weird high school thing because she can't be bombarded by her aunt because she thinks her aunt's just going to come for her and antagonize her in the hallway outside of the bathroom.
And that's why I had to ask myself, like, is this real worry or is this a performance? Because there's nothing in Kristen Decker that would even suggest that she would ever try to corner you and attack you in any way. She seems like a very loving, wonderful woman. Maybe she's concerned because, hello, she's been in the lifestyle and she knows how it feels and it's pretty fucking terrible. And isn't it interesting, Beatrice, that the things that truly bothered Kristen in her marriage, which was when her husband of 30 years went out and got a new wife and how she dealt with like the deep jealousy of that. And then they went and they on their honeymoon and they came back and she says, I just wanted to die. Those are the same issues that Christine has. Like, Christine has a lot of issues and there's a lot of problems inherent to trying to figure out polygamy.
Yeah.
But her main issue is jealousy.
Yes.
And her aunt experienced the same thing. And yet you can't just listen to where your aunt is. You can't respond to it. In fact, when Christine responds to Kristen talking about her experience, she's just like, well, I just don't know what to do with you, Auntie. You were married to a bad man.
Yeah, sorry to tell you, he was a bad guy. And it's so funny because now I'm like, you were married to a bad guy. And now you acknowledge that Cody has turned into a bad guy and that he was not good to you or your other sister wives. So it's just interesting.
Or your children.
I really hope she reconnected with her aunt, or maybe her aunt reached out to her and was like, told you so. Because that's what I would do if I was her aunt. I'd be like, I'm ready for my apology now. Like, I was just looking out for you because I care about you and you're my niece and I love you and I saw what you were in and you didn't want to hear me. And I would hope that Christine could acknowledge that, but like, we don't get to have those conversations. We don't get to hear that from
it
her.
makes me angry. It
Me
really
too.
makes me angry because Christine and I are around the same age. Janelle and Mary, we're all around the same age. For me, if I had put myself out in this way, and if I had been a champion and a cheerleader for this particular lifestyle that actually did end up being terribly abusive and exploitative and hurt me and my children, like, again, I would feel a sense of responsibility to address that down to the brass tacks, honey. And I'm hoping when she comes out with her big dumb book, like later this fall, that I still have to pre-order, I hope we actually get into some of these conversations because you have a responsibility, Janelle. You have a responsibility, Mary. You have a responsibility, Christine, to talk about the things that were wrong, to talk about how you were taken advantage of and financially abused and maybe abused. I don't know. Like, you were all rah out here, especially in this episode. And now where are you at?
Right.
Now, what did you walk away with in this relationship?
I mean, she got money. Now she's got 2 Airbnbs and she's got a bald husband.
Which is great. Like, she was smart, but like, Janelle, not you though.
Right. Exactly.
Mary, not you though.
Exactly.
So I feel like, let's talk about that.
Right.
But no, you want to be a cheerleader and all you want to do is get a tattoo on your titty and just have us just infer what that means. bullcrap.
It is bullcrap.
It's offensive.
And like, we know we're not going to get these kinds of conversations from like Robin and Cody because they can never acknowledge their wrongs or their faults or even their lack of faith in this point. But like, it'd be nice to get that from the OG3 because they were the ones championing it this entire time. And it was also interesting, speaking of Cody, somebody in the audience asked him a question directly about how many kids he had. He's like, oh yeah, I have 17. And this chick who looked like she was probably college age or whatever, she's like, so let me ask you, are you emotionally involved with all 17 of those kids? Do you feel like you can manage those relationships well enough with such a large family? And Cody's like, yeah, I feel like I'm just as involved as any other monogamous couple. And I wish we could like flash back to this comment right here in the tell-alls now and have Suki be like, yeah, so are you still involved with all your kids? Because now you're only involved with like 5 Robin's kids. Like, it'd just be interesting. And it's just crazy that he went from that to where he is now.
Well, even his answer, though, was a little equivocating and shady to me, because it wasn't like, absolutely, I make it a point to connect with my children, make sure that I'm accessible and available to all my kids. No, what he does is simply compare himself to a monogamous man.
Right.
Like, the monogamous men that I know spend about the same amount of time as I do with my kids. Okay, well, but what does that mean? Because who are your monogamous friends? That's very anecdotal.
Well, and I'm like, what monogamous has 17 kids besides like the Duggars?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know any other family that's like that large, but I mean, whatever.
Right.
Whatever you say, Cody. And then someone else asks another question to the wives. And it was something about like, how can you feel liberated in this relationship when your husband's just sleeping with other women all the time? And Mary speaks up and she's like, you know how liberating it is to not have to sleep with Cody every night? It's like so great. And like everybody laughs. And I'm just thinking like,
is it great?
Is it great? Like, is this the point where you're
sure
not
about
getting
that?
any nookie?
You sure about that?
Like, in a couple years, you're going to be sucking on a banana in a bathtub.
Being catfished by a woman, Mary.
Oh my God, so liberating.
Yeah. But again, lies, performance, trying to keep the gravy train going, trying to keep the show going. It's all just false.
It's crazy. And what I really liked was the professor's bits in this episode, because he's like looking at them like they're a case study, which is awesome. And he, I guess, has studied a lot of other polygamous families and cults and stuff over the years. He was not involved in the Warren Jeffs cults, but he was involved in a couple others. And he said in his experience, like 35% of polygamous couples were like happy. The other 35% were like trying, but they were struggling. And then the other 30% were just like completely, absolutely dysfunctional and miserable. And he said that this would be very similar to monogamous couples that he's studied. And I'm like, who paid you to say that?
Right.
And then he makes like a really interesting observation at the end where he said, if polygamy was going to be successful, there's like 3 criteria for it. And one of them was, the families were economically well off. So all the women and all of the kids and everything were paid for. The husband also worked very hard to manage his affection. And if he had a favorite wife, he kept it quiet. And then the third, most importantly, the sister wives were all friends. And he says that the Browns have all 3 and that they are a good example of how polygamy can work. And he's like talking about it like, maybe we can offer this as like an alternative lifestyle for people and maybe it can be a good thing. And that was why he wanted to do this panel. I'm just like thinking,
but none of those things are true.
No. And I wonder if he could tell that Cody had a favorite wife in this period of time. But it's just interesting that he said that as like a criteria, that if they had a favorite wife, they just kept it quiet. And Cody couldn't do that. He couldn't do that at all. He could have probably kept these women forever if he just managed the affection.
Yep. And the schedule and didn't show overt favoritism.
Yep.
And I thought the finances part was very interesting as well, because up until this point, it has been functionally equal. Rent's being paid. They each have a house in the cul-de-sac. It is at this point on, though, that I think we're going to start seeing or smelling the trash of the siphoning of the funds, Robin getting, for whatever reason, more of the benefit of the funds, and things are going to start to be inequitable. And it's going to be interesting. So for all 3 of those, he fails.
Yep.
He's actually, and on 2 of them, he's failing right now.
Oh, for sure.
But like he's going to end up failing on all 3 points.
Yep. And that's why they completely
Mhm.
destroy their family, because
Right.
Cody couldn't manage the family.
You know, and I was just like side-eyeing that professor. I'm like, okay, but based on what stats though? Based on what studies? Are you talking about your personal study? Let's look at the numbers. Like how,
Mhm.
I mean, how many polygamists have you actually interviewed versus monogamous people? Like it just felt very like a throwaway anecdote of
Yeah.
his personal observation, but I don't think it bears out in practicality and in actual human lives. I actually
Mm-mm.
knew somebody, a guy who lived in Salt Lake City. And I knew him for quite some time before he finally divulged to me that his mother was like one of 3 or 4 other
Oh,
wives.
wow.
And he made me swear
Not to say
never to
anything?
tell anybody. And here I am on a podcast. He actually passed away about 20
Oh,
years ago. It was a long
rest in
time
peace.
ago. Yeah, rest in peace. He was actually a really nice person, but he developed some very problematic behaviors, including some substance stuff, because he, I think, had such deep trauma for the way his family was managed
Whoa.
over his childhood and into his adulthood, and it was all very sad. But like, he was a full-grown adult. He was an adult person, a
Wow.
professional person, but he was still not feeling comfortable enough to talk about it at the time. Now this predates Sister Wives, but
Mm.
that's just the culture of it. Like, so
Yeah.
for my little anecdote, the one person I knew who was in this particular lifestyle, it was not a good thing.
I mean, yeah, and like we've seen it implode on TV with just this family. And so it's like it's objectively not great. I mean, I'm sure maybe it can work out, I guess, but at whose expense, you know? Is it at the
Mhm.
women's expense all the time and that's why it works out?
Yes.
Because the women just ignore their jealousy and their insecurity and
It's the ministry of suffering.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it
It's an
is.
article of their faith in order
Right.
to do that.
Right. And like that was like kind of the purpose of this debate, was just to be able to talk about the opposing viewpoints and to like maybe have the Browns acknowledge that they are kind of a unique exception to this rule, but they couldn't do that. It ended up being a debate, got a little antagonistic at some points.
Mhm.
I wish we saw more of it.
Yeah.
It was just the majority of the episode of Christine being afraid,
Right.
but it was interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, it was interesting,
Yeah.
but it could have been done differently. I
100%.
really wanted to hear more from those kids and the life that they
Yeah.
lived. And I wanted to flesh out Ponytail or Cheryl Marie,
Yeah.
the photographer lady. Like, how did you get involved in some weird Mormon guru?
Right.
I mean, what happened there? But that didn't actually sound like polygamy to me.
Mm-mm.
Sounded like you just got caught up in some very strange relationship scam.
Yeah.
But it was still interesting, and we should have heard more, but
Well,
we
and
didn't.
I wanted to hear more from the angsty teen. What's her
Colleen?
name? Colleen. Yeah, because she said she came from the Kingston cult or whatever, which was based on incest. So she ended up marrying her cousin or second cousin or something
right.
like that. And so that was like normalized in their cult, like sisters and brothers and all this stuff. And so
Mhm.
she had all that. I'm like, that would have been really interesting to
Yes.
hear her story and the kid from Warren Jeff's cult, but we didn't get to talk about them really at all. And I wonder if that was like a TLC production
Mhm.
thing because they didn't want to shed too much light on how evil some of these polygamous cults can actually be. It needed to be just like all about how the Browns are just not like that though.
I don't think so, because around this time, Colleen actually is featured on a show called Escaping Polygamy or something. And
Oh
I
yeah, I
think
forgot about
that
that.
Willie Steed kid is also featured on that, or
Mm-hmm.
like talks about it on the show. So I think that maybe this is kind of an enticement, or like just like a preview on the topic that TLC is rolling out so that people can get interested in this other show that they're going to launch with Colleen.
Uh-huh.
And I think I remember watching it back in the day and finding it very fascinating, although I don't remember her specifically.
Yeah.
She strikes me as somebody who is deeply, deeply, deeply wounded and
Of
changed
course, yeah.
by her father and her mother and polygamy in general. And I think the last time she was discussed by us, so 1 or 2 seasons ago, when she was first shown, like, I know I did a deep dive on social media and I found out that I think she went into stripping,
Yeah.
but then she kind of got out of that and she was now doing like gong baths
Mhm.
and singing bowls and new age stuff. And it's just kind of this pipeline that people get on as they're just trying to work their crap out and
It's a
figuring out
journey.
themselves. It is a journey, and I don't fault her for that at all. Like, I think she's probably in her late 20s, early 30s right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was 100% a mess at that time.
Of course.
Because of the trauma that I had endured in my childhood. But I wish her well. And
Me too.
I really wish the Willie Steed guy, I wish him well too. I hope he's doing okay.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
And F you Browns for treating him that way.
Oh my God, I know. I'm just like, can you not validate their experience at all?
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, all of the other panelists are saying like, no, we know that you guys are an anomaly. You guys are unique. Like, we get it. I get that you believe that your thing is good. Just listen to our perspective though. Like, and why our perspective is shaped the way it is because of our experience. Like, but the Browns are just incapable.
They can't do it.
And then we have a preview for next week's episode, and this is where Cody gives the wives his ugly jewelry designs.
Yes.
I can't wait because Christine hates hers. And then we have a marriage retreat in Sedona.
Right. This is where did we see like glimpses of this?
I think we saw it in like season 18 or season 19 where they did flashbacks or
like
something
look backs, talkbacks or whatever, where like she positions them according to how close they feel to Cody, and then Robin's like right up in his butthole.
Yeah.
I'm this close.
Yeah, Christine's
not in the circle at all. She's left the building.
Outer orbit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. And she seems also very wounded by whatever happens in that retreat.
She says it was like the worst part of the whole entire retreat. So I'm really excited
I can't wait to get to it.
It's going to be really juicy.
Okay.
And then we have Janelle officially being like, yeah, I'm done with my sister wives closet. Yeah. I think. She doesn't really say that explicitly, but she says something like, I have to be independent and do my own thing. I have
to separate from this. And it kind of, the way they present it, it sort of makes you wonder, like, do you mean the family?
I know.
Well, of course she doesn't. I think she's talking about my sister wife's bum-ass closet.
I know. Which I love.
I cannot wait either.
I can't wait to see Robin's jaw get really hard.
Oh, God. Well, is there anything else that we need to say to these beautiful raccoons before we get up on out of here, Beatrice?
Well, if you love our podcast, please go to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a glowing 5-star review. Really helps us grow the pod and get fatter up in this dumpster. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to be back later this week to talk your feedback on the sister wives and all the things that you've got to say about these crazy polygamous honey. Well, now they're monogamous.
I know.
We want to hear your opinions. So come back on Friday for that. Until then, please do not forget that we have nothing but love for you. And also that Sister Wives is returning. Season 19 is returning on April 20, 420 hoodie. So party as you want to, if you know what I mean. And once it comes back, we're going to be stepping away from season 6.
Yeah.
We're going to be reconvening our season 19 coverage, and then we'll figure out what we're doing after that. But, also the result of our poll.
Yeah, on YouTube and Instagram. Yeah. Looks like all y'all want polyfamily.
Most of you.
On the general pod.
Yeah.
Well, most of you, yeah. So we're going to cover that. But don't cancel me, bro.
Yeah, we're going to cover polyfamily. Yeah. Again, this is the quartet of cringe. Everybody's screwing everybody. They're having babies. Nobody knows who the pappy is. It's going to be fantastic. So we're going to cover that. And then we're going to move our coverage of the Valley, which I personally am so excited for.
Yeah.
We're going to move that to Patreon. So if you guys aren't a part of our Patreon, it is only $5. We have like full videos. They're sometimes very long. Like we have a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
And it is the best way to support us. So get on over there too. Patreon.com/realitytvcringe. We'll be back next week. We got nothing but love for you and peace.